Peace, peace, peace. Welcome to another episode of Wise the Dome TV. Today, I have a very, very special guest. You've seen him on the show a few times, and we're here to discuss his new book, African Spirituality for Children of the African Diaspora. My brother Ben, also known as Blak Pantha. You know what I'm saying? We're going to definitely get into this. Also, the link for the book is in the description. Make sure you cop the book. Also, make sure you check into the latest single, Heaven and Hell, featuring Makiba Moon Cycle, Najeri Earth, and Backwoods Sweetie, which will also be in the description. Peace, Blak Pantha, man. Thank you for coming through, bro.
Lafayette Mandla, Bibi Hoodier. Appreciate you welcoming me to the show as you always have. Yes, my new book, so let's get into it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Man, first off, great book, man. I'm definitely suggesting everybody go ahead and purchase that whenever they have the opportunity. Again, use that link in the description. What kind of inspired you to write this book?
What inspired me to write this particular text uh, was the massive amounts of misinformation
Mhm.
about African spiritual systems that is, out here on Al Gore's internet. And I just, from getting so many questions over the years about different things, and people show me, where they got it from,
Mhm.
and just deliberate lies by a lot of different types of people.
Right.
Because the first thing that's going to pop in people's heads is, well, those are probably Europeans or as we say, white folk.
Mhm.
Uh, but no, it was a lot of black people as well. It was a lot of stuff out there that people didn't understand and take the time to actually study. And we are all children of the diaspora. We are all children of the African diaspora. We are children of the motherland. We should be, at least serviceable to a suitable proficiency in our cultures and traditions.
Mhm.
And it's impossible to do that if you don't come across information to spark your brain to actually go into these systems. So that's what I wanted to do with this text. I wanted to be that door so
Yeah.
people can walk through and actually start studying these traditions, cultures, and you know their language, their culture, their foods, and things that we already are involved in that we don't know
Mhm.
have a African root. So that's what was important to me, and that's why I decided to bring this text to life. It took me a long time to write this text, um, but I wanted to be sure that I had the right ingredients and things in the right order, and I didn't rush with this at all. So it took me some years actually to write this text, and that was my mission statement, so to speak, for this text.
Absolutely, man. And you did a great job, and it was definitely very informative um from a lot of different aspects. And one thing that you just mentioned that you also talk about in the book is culture, right? And how culture is obviously a big part of who we are. The question becomes, whose culture are we living? Whose culture are we bringing forth? When we think of ourselves as, well, we understand ourselves as African people and an African diaspora. And this can even apply to our brothers and sisters on the continent as well. Um, when it comes to like liberation, ideas of freedom, ideas of uh, autonomy and agency, how important is us reconnecting with our own culture a part of this process?
I'm of the opinion that until we live our traditional cultures in large amounts, then this freedom, this sovereignty, this abivi fahudie that we are looking for will escape our grasp
Mm,
because you get trapped into ideas and illustrations of something else that is not native to you. So eventually, even if we obtained the goal, how long until we fall back into the same patterns that are perpetuated by Western and dominant society? We have to have a revolution of the mind and the spirit as well as the
Hmm.
physical body. And that is what our traditional cultures can do for us. That a lot of people don't think that, that's connected. But if we look at some of our examples of the past, that was some of the first things that people had to do. I mean, everyone always brings up the Haitian Revolution, but for one of the first things he said was, get rid of your white God.
Hmm.
We
Hmm.
about to roll out. We can't roll out with that.
Right, 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 right.
That's got to go right now. So that was step one.
Yeah, yeah.
The boys Camden Spark Alligator Spark ceremony was a traditional African ceremony of many different types of traditions.
Mm.
But that was step one. That was spark to their revolution. And that was the spark to them getting rid of their foreign deities and replacing them with traditional deities and then moving forward. So we have to be of the same mindset.
Indeed, indeed. And one thing, a part of that cultural, that African cultural experience that you talked about was, and you showed an example within Yoruba culture, within Igbo culture of this, of the idea of good character and developing good character, right? And whenever you think about a lot of um, Abrahamic faiths, sometimes it seems like that idea gets a little bit lost, right, within the totality of the religion. But as you described it, in a lot of our cultures, good character is one of the central aspects of what we do, right? And so, can you just talk about just the importance of good character, developing good character within our African traditional systems?
Character is something that drives, our behavior and our interactions with other people. So the way that culture has developed our morals, our scruples, our things that are sacred, our things that are discarded, all of that molds our character. So it's essential in our interactions in our daily lives. And for you to have a character that is like disregard of elders or disregarding of you know sacred things to the culture, or disregards your own language, or disregards your sacred foods, your places, your just your way of being, that's not conducive to the mission statement you alluded to earlier, which is African liberation. So character was placed at the top because we understood that no matter how much power you amalgamate, no matter how much money, no matter how many women, no matter how many, children, if you have character that is less than, or what we call Iwa Buruku in Yoruba, which basically sums up bad character,
Mm-hmm.
these things can be taken away
Mm-hmm.
very easily. So there's I'm sure people have heard this. They may not know that this is an African saying, and in particular the Yoruba people say this. Um, if you have money and bad character, the money belongs to someone else. You have children and bad character, your children belong to something else.
Mm-hmm.
So to tie that in, and what your first question is, so if we do not engage in our traditional systems and develop our character in a traditional way, if we have liberation and bad character,
Mm-hmm.
liberation will belong to somebody else.
Right,
You see
right,
what I'm saying?
right.
So it's interconnected to what we're trying to achieve, and it's interconnected to our African spiritual system.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so in the beginning of the book, you, and throughout the book, there's different mentions of different aspects of it, but you mentioned Kemet, right? And there are a couple of things that I wanted to ask you about Kemet and ancient Kemet. whenever we think of African spiritual traditions or African traditional religions, and this idea of like Sankofa, right, and going back to retrieve what was lost and beginning to tap in, can connect with things that we thought may have been lost through the experience of enslavement and colonialism. And we, a lot of times whenever we use those terms, African traditional religions or African spiritual traditions, we are thinking of things such as Isheshe, Voodoo. But does Kemet fall into that as well? Or would you see that as something separate?
No, Kemet in their culture and society definitely had a spiritual component that I would put under the umbrella of Isheshe.
Hmm.
Um, it's not highlighted enough because the people that study Kemet and the people that delve into the language and the culture of Kemet often leave it out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Purposely, I'm sure.
I just don't think it's their interest.
Okay, okay.
I don't think that they're looking or even know what they're looking at sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
It's crazy because when I got into West African spirituality, it made me understand Kemet more
Mm.
because you'll see some things that you'll be like, oh, they do that too.
Right,
Oh, wow. Oh,
right,
that's the same concept.
right, right.
Oh man, I didn't understand why this king wore these golden sandals with images of his enemies in them. I was like, oh, Yoruba people step on their enemies as well in their kola nut divination. So I started to understand the background, the backdrop, as we can say with ancient Kemet, and their spiritual components. And it wasn't just the math, it wasn't just the science, it wasn't just the astronomy. They had interwoven spiritual concepts into what we would call hard sciences today.
Mm,
And it wasn't a separate thing.
mm,
And I have to credit my brother Unc Benu on that because he was one of the first people to say, hey, this is here as well. Him and also Asari Motep.
mm.
Um, and it's just something that if you're not looking for those type of things or that's not your interest, you're just going to gloss over. Like, the pyramids have a spiritual component as well as a very practical component as well.
Right.
And that's pretty much all of ancient Egypt's culture. There's always a spiritual component to it as well. They just weren't removing people's organs for no reason.
Right, right, right,
you
right,
know, you know, people died and they put their organs in the jars. It just wasn't say, hey, we can do this. There was a spiritual component and the sons of Heru in which they put it in and the
Mhm.
reasons they put those in there,
Mm.
for the afterlife and entering the Amduat and everything like that. I just think that we have a lot of people that study ancient Kemet that have what I call religious PTSD
Mm.
from Abrahamic faiths.
Mhm.
So they just kind of throw away anything that looks spiritual or what they deem as religious. And they do not understand that that's a central component to what you're trying to analyze. So they miss things.
Mhm.
They miss things. And it's something they have to reconcile within themselves. But unfortunately, they don't get the whole story because they're not looking at the whole entire picture of this culture.
Right, right. And you kind of, and so like I kind of wanted to, you mentioned it in the book as well, but I kind of wanted to get into it a little bit. Is it more appropriate to refer to these things as African spiritual traditions rather than African traditional religions?
In my first book, is African spirituality or religion, I covered this topic, how I never use the term ATR and I
Mhm.
never use the term African religions. Um, it's not to be disrespectful to our elder John Mbiti.
Hmm.
I understood what he was trying to do. But when we look at these systems, the first thing you have to ask yourself when people use the word religion is what category of religion are we putting this in?
Right.
Because all religions have a category.
Hmm.
Whether it's monotheism, whether it's pantheism, whether it's polytheism, whether it's Hinduism, whether it's animism, whether it's, the many different categories of religion in which we analyze and identify religions, not only in this country, but globally. So when I look to see what African spiritual traditions were categorized in a religious sense, I assumed all of them were going to be under animism.
Right.
I was wrong.
Hmm.
They don't consider our traditions animism at all. And what I'm referencing is the Pew Institute, which is the leading institute, scholarly society on religions in the world. And the Pew Institute categorizes African religions under what they call folk religion.
Mm. What?
And I said, what is
Yeah.
that? I've never
Yeah.
heard of that.
Hmm.
Folk religion is the unapproved version of the religion that we are practicing.
Mm.
So to put that into context, yourself, 5%er. They would look at 5%er as folk Islam.
Mm. Okay.
So basically, Islam is the parent.
Hmm.
You don't approve of the 5%.
Hmm.
That's what y'all practicing.
Right. Right. Right.
So in African terms, they're trying to say monotheism is the approved version, and we are practicing a bastardized version of
Mm.
monotheism.
Wow. Wow.
Which anybody that has studied any type of African spiritual system and knows about monotheism knows that that is complete BS.
Right. 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 Absolutely.
So you have to start asking yourself, why are African religions, quote unquote, African religions, categorized as folk religions?
Hmm.
And when they are older than the monotheism.
Right. Right. Right.
So this denotes a type of prejudice.
Hmm.
This denotes of a continuum of idea, which first started with Christian missionaries. So we are looked at as primitive. We are looked at as backwards. We are looked at as, you know, devilish, evil, things of that nature. And this is why we are put in this category of folk religion. So ultimately, to call African spiritual systems religions is continuing this racist idea.
Mm. Right.
So this is why I don't call them that. And we introduced a new term that we thought was more accurate. Myself, brother Sorry Motel, brother Shakara, brother Kofi. We have started years ago using the term kimoyo.
Hmm.
And kimoyo is a Bantu word that comes out of the Congo from Professor Dr. Fukiao. And Dr. Fukiao stated that, it was describing dynamo vitalism, vitality and power. And if you think about what vitality is, it's a term used to describe a person's ability to live, grow, and develop, to be vigorous, to be active. It's alluding to what we do in our everyday life.
Right.
It's not something separate. It's not something we just go to on Sundays, or
Right.
something we stop everything and do 5 times a day. It's something it's interconnected to our being, our homeostasis. Everything we do is a part of this system.
Hmm.
So we believe that kimoyo as a term is more accurate. And that's why we started using that term, and we use it as an umbrella for all African traditional spiritual systems, because all of them have this in common, where they are talking about vitality and power and living and growing and everything like that. If you look in a lot of African spiritual languages, or just African languages in general, there's not a word for religion.
Hmm. Hmm.
or they've added one in the last, 50 years,
Right.
or
Right.
they or it's went through some type of metamorphosis to where now it means religion, where before it meant like worship or something
Hmm.
like that. That's what's taking place to make monotheistic people feel more comfortable.
Mm, right. Right.
That's why.
Right.
Because before we didn't have we didn't have this thought process. But now, since monotheism has taken over, the world in a
Hmm.
certain aspect, we have to come up with these things to make people go, "Oh, okay. All right." When you hear things like what's the term they'll use? They'll say God, but they'll say something like they'll it's a term to put their God at the certain height. They'll say something like the one true God,
Oh
or,
yeah.
or
Yeah. Yeah.
living God,
Hmm.
so what are you saying? My God is dead?
Right. Right. Right.
True,
Right.
the living God is, the
Yeah.
one true. They do that to put that they're establishing a hierarchy
Hmm.
in, pantheons.
Hmm.
And make no mistake about it, brothers and sisters, our pantheons are at the bottom under their feet.
Absolutely.
How they feel.
Hmm.
So I had to, get that language out of my head because, it's perpetuating racism. We don't even realize that we're perpetuating racism when we use terms like ATR and, things of that nature. You're like, oh, there's only one God, and, we just call it by different names. No, the hell it ain't.
Mm. Mm.
Our
Because
deities
I've
don't
def
behave like monotheistic deities,
right.
and vice versa. So we don't have to pretend.
And I've definitely heard that being said before. Oh, it's all the same concept,
It ain't.
like I think you're right. I think that's said to make people feel more comfortable with what they're dealing with.
Yeah, it's a comfortability that
Oh,
we. Okay, that was weird.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We're back. We're back. I'm not sure if you can. What were you saying again?
Uh, you know, that's the coping mechanism. So people that come around other traditions that go, oh, okay, that's just their version of what we're doing. No, it ain't.
Right, right,
No,
right.
it ain't. Something totally different. And that should be okay that I'm doing something totally different. But
Absolutely.
unfortunately, for some people, um, it's not.
Yeah, yeah. You kind of mentioned something I wanted to get into a little bit more as well of this idea of uh, monotheism and polytheism, and how when we look at uh, Kemet and the Neteru and Isheshe and the Orisha, Vudun, the Loa, like, and then we and our understanding of nature and natural forces. Um, the West and Western interpretations of what we have practiced historically view this as, you know, polytheism. And then they often will say, even in ancient Egypt, it was Akhenaten that, brought, monotheism to Kemet. But like, whenever we are looking at our traditional systems, uh, Kimoyo, is it even fair to label these things from such a Eurocentric, viewpoint, whether we're talking about monotheism or polytheism? Like, it just feels like that's, to me, it just feels like that's still placing what we have done into a box that wasn't designed and created by us.
It is. That's exactly what they do. But the thing about it is, and I often highlight this, before before we scholastically analyze African traditions, can monotheism be honest with themselves first?
Mm,
Because essentially, if we look at their texts, we look at things that are created and how they're created. Speaking specifically for Christianity, you're not monotheist.
mm, especially if you're Catholic.
You're not from your inception. If we're talking about the Hebrew Bible, there,
Mhm.
I know now you look in the King James version, it just says God, but those
Yeah,
are names traditionally. El Shaddai, Yahweh, Baal, all these deities are not the same.
right, right,
It's
right.
made them the same at
Hmm.
one point to Adonai and all of these other deities. These are not the same people, not the same deity, but they made them that.
Right.
And even when you come to the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, these are still not the same.
Mm. Right.
But there was a syncretism that took place.
Mm.
Now they're referred to as all manifestations of the one true living God,
Right.
which we know in earlier times that was not true. So that's number one. Number two, polytheism. It's an interesting concept, but it doesn't fit African traditions in totality because we have a one true living deity too.
Right. Right.
We have that. We just have other lesser deities.
Mm.
Doesn't Christianity have that as well?
Yep.
So who is Jesus?
So, allegedly the Son of God.
Son of God, who is
Hmm.
treated like a demigod.
Hmm.
So who is the Holy Ghost?
Mm. That's a good question. Right.
Who are these other things?
Right.
So if we're polytheistic,
Hmm.
so are they.
Right.
So there has to be some reconciliation within that within those two categories because it doesn't make sense. And people will say, Akhenaten is the one that brought monotheism to ancient Kemet. This is another coping mechanism for people.
Hmm.
Oh, see, y'all
Hmm.
used to live this way,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
came through and brought y'all closer to the one true God.
Right.
No, Akhenaten did not bring monotheism. What Akhenaten did was he removed power from a priesthood of Amen.
Hmm.
His father, who was trying to remember his father's name because they changed their names. It was a beef. People got to understand this is a beef.
Right.
This is a beef between a priesthood, a father, his son, who passes, and that priesthood goes all the way to Tutankhamun. Um, was it Thutmose? It might have been Thutmose the third, his father, or was it Tahuti Mays? Whoever his father, who was a king, was bumping heads with the Amun priesthood. So him seeing that when he became king, he's like, I'm not gonna be dealing with y'all. So
Right.
I'm gonna remove Amun from its rightful place.
Mm.
Amun, creator deity, nah.
Mm.
I'm gonna bring in a deity from the past, Aten.
Mm.
So Akhenaten was born under another name. He changed his name to Akhenaten to align himself with the deity Aten. What that essentially did was push Aten to the forefront and Amen to the background. But if you look at some of the artwork from Akhenaten's time, other deities are still there.
Right. Right. Right.
Heru is still there.
Mhm.
There were still Shimshu Herus, which were
Mhm.
followers of Heru. There were other deities still there.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's just that he pushed one to the forefront, which was Aten. So
Right.
that was his thing. It's not like all the other deities ceased to exist, or there was some law to where you couldn't worship Heru or worship Asar or worship Aset. That never happened.
Mhm.
You just
Mhm.
got Amun out the way. You
Right.
just took the power from this particular priesthood.
Right.
So
Right.
this was a big deal. So when he, you know, passed or no longer was king, uh, and his son had to become king at an early age. Again, his son was born Tutankhaten.
Mhm.
It was decided by his mother and the priesthood that they would reestablish Amen. So his name was changed to Tutankhamen. which we know him as today, King Tut.
Right.
Um, Putting the Amen priesthood back where it once was. And whatever they did with Akhenaten's body, we don't know.
Mm.
Don't know where Akhenaten's body is. Akhenaten is also not in the Valley of the Kings. His name is not on the King's list at Abydos.
Mm. Right.
They tried to like
Erase him from memory.
like, crazy ass dude, man. Get him out of here.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so it's not an issue of monotheism versus polytheism with Akhenaten. It's a political power struggle, which deities are used to control different types of power within
Mhm.
rulership.
Right.
But it's one of those things to where if you don't really study, that period, you really won't know what you're looking at. It just looks like he introduced another deity
Hmm.
and got rid of another one. But Kemet has so many deities, so I
Right.
don't understand how
Getting rid of one
it's
isn't getting rid of
true.
all of them.
Yeah, like hey,
Yeah.
all the rest of y'all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not what happened. Like they didn't blow up the Valley of the Kings or blow up the pyramids or blow up the Heru Kat or people call the Sphinx. They didn't blow up those things or damage them when he became king. They
Mhm.
just Aten rose to the forefront.
Right. We're obviously in a time where there are some people who with a level of, I would say, self-hate and misinformation fueling their self-hate, refuse to even acknowledge the fact that they are African people, right? And whenever we look at our cultural memory, cultural continuity, even things from like, and one thing, like, because whenever I used to have these I stopped wasting my time, by the way, but whenever I used to have those
Woo,
conversations,
thank God. Boy, you was
man, I know, man, I know, I stopped wasting my time on them, man. But like whenever, like, like even like the legendary blues singer Robert Johnson going to the crossroads to get his guitar tuned by the devil, right? And the underlying African origins of you know Bakongo systems, crossroads, Legba, Alegua, you know, whenever we look at these cultural retention, because it's funny, like my grandmother even told a story when I was young about her father doing something similar, right, at the crossroads. And um they might not have even they might not have themselves even know
right,
that that was African, right?
right.
But it was something that you know was a part of our I guess understanding of the world, right? And but whenever we like, can you talk about just that idea a little bit about the significance of crossroads? Because I think that's I think that's just a powerful, idea of that we came up with. But also after that, of how people continue to ignore these cultural retentions, or maybe unaware of these cultural retentions that we have in America. That we brought here through the transatlantic slave trade.
Crosses, crossroads, a vertical line, a horizontal line.
Right, right, right.
They're littered throughout African traditions before we came in contact with monotheism. Uh, you mentioned the Congo; they have a cross for separating. It's like quadrants of the
Hmm.
world.
Hmm.
Yoruba have a similar worldview of this. Um, the crossroads became something, from what I can tell, out of Yoruba and Benin, uh, as a space to leave offerings
Hmm.
for different deities.
Hmm.
The most popular of those deities being Eshu,
Hmm.
or some people say Elegbara,
Hmm.
which formed in Lukumi or Regla de Ocha to Elegua. Our Benin brothers have their version. called Legba.
Mm,
Our Haitian brothers have their version, Papa Legba.
hmm.
Uh, and all of these deities or collections of deities, although different in their worship, in their songs, in their colors, they were similar to the point where Christian missionaries called them devil,
Right.
to include Inkweshu from Igbo people, to include Anansi from the Akan Ashanti people in Ghana. So devil was given to Eshu and like deities like Eshu. That type of thinking carried over to us in the new world,
Hmm.
which we are now living now. So, like you said, in blues songs and folklore, they'll say, I met a man at the crossroads, or I met a devil at the crossroads who gave me something that tuned my guitar, that gave me a prayer, that whatever. And if you're not familiar with African traditions, you will think they're actually talking about the devil,
Right.
but they're not.
Right. 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 Right.
It made its way into hoodoo, as this folklore, this legend, this the man at the crossroads or the
Mm-hmm.
devil at the crossroads. And what they're alluding to is deities like the ones we named earlier, in which he is a messenger,
Mm-hmm.
and where he accepts his offerings are the crossroads. This is a practice that still goes on today amongst many West African traditions and spiritual systems. They still leave their offerings at the crossroads. Uh, Being that in America there's not that many crossroads, you will
Right.
also hear T
Right.
junction
Mm.
as a suitable substitute for crossroads.
Hmm.
There's even one when you go to the ancestor realm called Ori Meta,
Mm.
uh, or Orun Meta.
Hmm.
This is a crossroads in the ancestor realm.
Mm.
So the crossroads is very important as a place of leaving offerings for different deities, not just Eshu or Legba or
Hmm.
those type of deities, but for what we call Egbe. Um, they also leave the offerings at the crossroads. And you can do them for other Orisha as well if they prompt you to. So the
Mm.
crossroads is a sacred place in African traditions. And as far as things that we engage in that we don't know as African, that is my largest chapter in the book
Hmm.
because I kept finding so much stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, of course, we all know about the libations, and
Hmm.
that's something we've all been exposed to for the most part. But even though some of our haircuts,
Mm.
you
Yeah, I
know,
know. I love that chapter because you even show proof with the pictures, man. Like,
yeah, I like to
yeah,
show
yeah.
people what I'm talking about
Mm.
in written analysis as well as
Mm.
pictorial analysis.
Mm.
So you can see what I see
Right.
and you say that I'm crazy.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
um,
Right. Right.
Even the Jumbi walkers that we see in Caribbean festivals,
Mm.
those have African elements and are even deities
Mm.
in Africa. Even when we say things like, man, I talked you up, bro. You showed that has an African element as well of
Wow.
manifesting someone to appear.
Hmm.
There's just so many things that we do not know that have an African element, from the way we think to what we wear to how we play music to songs. And there are early evidences of this from our early ancestors in America, from some of the stuff they produced. And you'll look back and you'll be like,
Hmm.
wait, that's a Yoruba song, or
Wow.
that's this, or that's that.
Hmm.
We just don't know
Yeah. Yeah.
because the people that took those inspiration are now gone.
Hmm.
That information may not have been passed through their generation because of how they were looked at.
Hmm.
The hoodoo men were looked at as evil.
Yeah.
You know, there's even an old blues song called "Somebody Hoodooed the Hoodoo Man."
Oh man.
You know, uh,
Yeah.
It's a real song too. They talk about, how he's been burning candles at both ends and doing so much, what they call black magic that it finally caught up to him. That's the nature of the song. But that's a very old song, and they talk about, man, that man on the other side of town cooking up all that jive. You know who I'm talking about, that's a real, they're describing someone entrenched in their traditions, making antidotes for different things,
Right.
So we just don't know that some of these things have an African root, and it's in all genres of music.
Mm-hmm.
We just don't know. There's an instrument called the agogo. The agogo is said to be sampled in thousands of hip hop songs,
Wow.
and this is a traditional instrument from West Africa.
Right. Right. Wow.
We still play the agogo for deities like Ogun to this day.
Mm. That's one thing I wanted to ask you is obviously as African people, the drum music, whether it's in the African American church or whether it's in a Caribbean festival or on the continent, um, a practice on the continent, a religious practice. Well, hey, I mean, I got to get that out my brain too, but you know what I mean. A kimoyo practice on the continent, like music, the drum, like has always been an important um, part of our belief systems, right? Even we look even. I mean, when it comes to rebellion, right, and our use of the drum, um, but if you can, you kind of mentioned it a little bit, just then, but it's a question that I wanted to ask you anyway. But the importance of the drum in our traditions. I mean, even as hip hop heads, like if the beat ain't hitting, like a lot of times, what I'm saying, we ain't messing with it,
People ain't
right?
listening.
Right, right. So like what's the importance of the drum historically and in the present?
The drum is the instrument or one of the instruments we use to call deities and other spirits forward.
Mm,
We have lots of types of drums for different occasions. We have war drums.
right, right.
Drums we play at births. We have
Mm,
drums we play at parties. We have drums we play at initiations. We have drums we play at weddings. And they all are, have their own story and style, and even some of them speak to you.
mm,
We have the talking drum, the doom doom.
mhm,
We have so many types for different occasions. And I often say that sometimes in sacred spaces, the drummers are the most knowledgeable people in the
mm.
room
Wow.
because the drummers have to know the song, what the song is saying, the tonal notes of the song, the story behind the song, the lyrics to the song.
Mm. Right,
I
right,
know all this
right.
just to play in an effective manner. So oftentimes when we talk about spirit possession, the drums are what do it because
Mm,
calling something forward. This particular song is calling something forward. This beat, this rhythm, because I think all Black people will agree that we are a rhythmic people.
absolutely.
That rhythm invokes that energy and that power and can sometimes put people in an alternate state of being because of its rhythm, power, and spirit. So essentially, when you hear about things like the drum being banned on plantations
Hmm.
or us beating things being banned on plantations, you start to understand why. Because this is a powerful instrument of not only entertainment, but of expression of culture.
Mm,
We tried to use that as tools of liberation. We were communicating to people that knew our system through the drum.
right, right, right,
So
right.
you can start to understand, like, yeah, You gotta get that drum out of there. I don't want them beating on nothing. Like
Yeah.
I'm uncomfortable,
Right.
I'm
Right.
uncomfortable because music is powerful.
Mm,
Music is something that fuels, that vitality that we were talking about. And we're not the only people that did this.
mhm.
In the Civil War, they had drummers on
Facts.
on the battlefield
Yep. Facts. Facts.
playing them.
Yep. Yep. Matter of fact, a lot of the first early jazz musicians who are considered to be the creators of recorded jazz used instruments, throwaway instruments that were left over from the Civil War.
Yep,
You know,
they were doing the same thing. So,
mhm,
that percussion
mhm.
is just powerful. It is something that is intangible.
Right.
You can't really explain why you're feeling this way when that particular song come on.
Mhm.
It's no different than spiritual systems.
Absolutely. One thing I wanted to ask you, um, like in Abrahamic faiths, right? Um, even in also ancient Egypt or ancient Kemet, um, we have seen like a level of Orientalism and whitewashing that create all of these, you know, uh, characters within these systems to look like blonde haired, blue eyed Europeans, regardless to wherever they were from. Um, I have started to see people do that with Orisha.
Oh, that's
Um,
been around for a long time.
yeah, yeah. Like, can you speak to that? Because to me, that is insane. Like, I don't get me wrong, you know, it's insane when it's done in other traditions, but when it's done on a West African tradition, it's even more insane to me. Like how did that even begin to happen?
Well, because of the transatlantic slave trade
Mm-hmm.
and our brothers and sisters going to places in South America, Cuba, Brazil, El Salvador, all these different places, um, splinter splinter traditions of the mother tradition were born. So you have, Isheshe turning into, Regla de Ocha, or some people say Lukumi or Santeria. Um, you have Kibanda, uh, who comes out of that as well. You have Kele in Saint Lucia. You have trying to think of all of these different splinter groups, but my point is the original system that comes out of southwestern Nigerian splintered off when we got placed in other places.
Mm-hmm.
Centuries later, those people still practice Orisha worship,
Mm-hmm.
some sort sense. Uh, and through that, they start to make art. The art looks like them
Right, 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 right.
because it's in their home. And I mean, I don't know what else it would look like, to be honest,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
the African people are no longer there.
Mm-hmm.
Or the African people were either killed or absorbed into the society that is now predominantly Latinx.
Mm-hmm.
So their art is going to look like them.
Right, right, right,
I
right.
don't necessarily have a problem with them making art as long as we understand that that art is Lukumi or Kibanda or their system of art. The problem comes when this art somehow makes it to Nigeria
Mm.
and is being sold to people in Nigeria.
Yeah, that's an issue. And is
Tourists
that
in Nigeria.
happening?
Yes,
Mm.
absolutely. Because of the popularity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So Oshun looks like a lighter skinned woman
Mm-hmm.
you would conceptualize in your head in regular African society. Um, we have to continue to have the old ways of wood carving and our artistic expressions. Um, that has to continue.
Right.
A lot of things are being made cheaply now. A lot of things are being made fast. A lot of things are
Yeah.
being
For
made
mass consumption, right?
right.
Hmm.
So we have to continue to keep the old ways of having our art sacred.
Hmm.
And if you look at traditional Yoruba art, you can
Hmm.
tell it's way different from anyone else's version of Orisha art. So we just have to continue to have those things around and people to study to know how to make that because wood carving is no joke.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Wood carving is no joke. And if you see some of the finished products, man, you be like, wow.
Right.
You
Right.
know, so we have to continue to have those people around and patronize them in a traditional sense to where our artistic expressions are still being produced.
Hmm. You I kind of want to go back a little bit. You mentioned this in the book, and I kind of chuckle because like I see it all the time. As far as not only misconceptions about ancient Kemet and claims of advanced technologies like helicopters and light bulbs and stuff like that. And you mentioned that, right? But we see it, we see and we see these fantastical ideas, being promoted by our own people and people, non-African people as well. And it's like people in general seem to gravitate towards stuff like that over like a concept of Mayat, which even our African American ancestors, whenever they begin to teach about Kemet, made the centerpiece of what we were to learn. Why is it so important that you know Kemet is be made to be? I mean, it's already an amazing civilization that lasted 5,000 years or so, right? Like, why do we have to have helicopters and light bulbs to legitimize it?
Sensationalism.
Yeah.
People love sensationalism. They
Yeah.
love an outrageous story. I mean, it's we have entire we have an entire news outlet that was based on sensationalism, which is TMZ.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, we have an entire like Instagram page that people check daily for
Mm,
sensationalism, which is the
mm.
shape.
Yep. Facts.
So there's something about human interaction where people want just sensational, wild, fanatical ideas.
Hmm.
And there are always going to be people that prey on our ignorance, that pray that we don't know this and try to make some type of profit off of our ignorance. So
Right.
people look at this titulary, which is what we're talking about. It's in the Abydos temple, which I've seen with my own two eyes. First of all, when I tell you that this much of the temple has that, like just think of this whole room as a temple. And this right here
Right.
is what we're looking at.
Yeah.
I couldn't even find it at first. I expected it to be big. I was
Right.
like, man, I'm gonna look at this. And I'm all over the temple. So I was like, wait, that up there
Right.
is what we talking about. And
Right.
it's high up. I was like, you really had to be looking for this.
Right.
So it's a titulary, which is when you have overlapping meta nature. So basically, someone tried to erase or write over what was originally there. And originally it's talking about the nine bows. And the nine bows are a particular type of enemy of Kemet.
Hmm.
And the titulary that came on top of it made it look like some modern day things today. And you have people that have taken advantage of that and tried to sell you on the idea that they had helicopters and and jet ski or whatever they talk,
Right. Right.
tanks,
Yeah.
and they'll put it in their little, they used to put it in their little DVDs and
Yeah.
stuff. Niggas just trying to make money. Like,
Right.
what are they doing? Like let's look at it practically. So you telling me the civilization that had helicopters and tanks
Mm.
got conquered
Right.
by the Greeks and the Romans and the Assyrians and the Asiatics. They had beef with all these people,
Right. Right.
and,
Right.
and the Greeks took them out. But
Yeah.
we had tanks and
Submarines.
and
We had the air.
submarines. First of
Yeah.
all, submarines in a
Yeah,
river.
man. Yeah, man.
We only got the Nile River next to us in a river. We had all that, but them Europeans was just too tough.
Too tough, man. Too tough. With them
Hey,
chariots.
we had them chariots, boy. You got conquered.
Yeah.
All of that. Do we have Wi-Fi too? Like,
Right.
that's ridiculous, man. We have to understand. We have to have the discernment to understand where we have these peddlers and panhandlers and people that just trying to make money off of our ignorance, man. There's it's got to be some logical deduction and deductive reasoning to analyze these type of things. Because like you said, the light bulbs, there's nothing to power.
Right.
There's nothing,
What? Yeah.
the batteries. Like I didn't heard it all. I
Yeah.
didn't heard it all. And it's just ridiculous. But we have to have enough discernment and stop being wooed by sensational headlines and really get into our studies if it's important to us. See, a lot of this is not important to us.
Yeah.
So we just kind of grab it and we want to be the smartest poor person at the job or smartest person at the party. They had helicopters.
Right.
If you're not in this for real, just
right. It was one thing I wanted to ask you about as well is there's like an idea of pluriversality in different African schools of thought, meaning like how are people able to be practitioners of Isheshe and practitioners of voodoo, just giving two examples, right? And it not conflict. This idea that this is what I do over here is this is what I do over here is that. Like, can you talk about that some? Because for people of other faiths, of other traditions, that's a conflict, right? Like the European has always seen, the way they view Abrahamic religions, and the founders of these Abrahamic religions always have saw that as like a conflict. This idea of a universal truth has also led to our enslavement. It has led to colonialism, because everybody that doesn't practice this universal truth are heathens that need to be converted to what we push it.
right.
But as Black people, this pluriversality to where, like, I rock with this truth right here. I also rock with this truth right here.
Right.
And like, can you just speak to some of that? Because I think that's a powerful idea, especially, when we look at our history of enslavement.
Well, monotheistic gods are jealous gods.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
They tell you they're
Mm-hmm.
jealous gods.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't practice this, you're this. If you're not worshiping Allah and Allah only, you're an infidel. If you're not messing with, the Christian God, I'm a jealous God. You need to let all them other gods go. We seen what happened when Solomon in the Bible, when he started taking on, Sheba's deities, how it apparently that was his downfall.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just how monotheism rolls. African traditions are not like that at all. You can go learn here, you can go learn there, you can do this, you can do that. A lot of people are caught in between ethnic groups.
Mm,
So if your mother was Yoruba
hmm.
and your father was Benin, yeah, you're gonna learn a little bit of both.
Right, right, right.
It's just what it is. And at one point, you'll want to probably take more than the other,
Hmm.
but that doesn't mean that you can't show up to a voodoo festival.
Hmm.
That doesn't mean you can't show up to an Ikese type festival, or you know it's not dogmatic for
Right,
us.
right.
Hell, it's not even dogmatic for African people in the continent when they practice Abrahamic religions.
Right, right. I
They
know.
be at the church in the morning and the shrine
Yeah,
in the evening.
facts. That's a fact.
I have a niece.
Hmm.
I asked her what religion she was because she lives in Senegal.
Hmm.
I said, "What religion are you?" And she said, "Well, I practice Christmas." And I was like, "What exactly is Christmas?" And she said, "A little Christian, a little Muslim."
Oh, wow, wow.
Dead serious. Um, so it's just not as big of a deal as it is in America. It's not a defining thing.
Right, right, right.
Uh, they don't have a problem participating in multiple things because they just don't see it as something that should be that dogmatic.
Right.
We had the king of Oyo who passed some years ago, the Alafin. The Alafin was a Muslim.
Mm. Wow.
The Alafin participated in everything traditional Yoruba that we had.
Wow. Wow. Right.
Because in his mind, this is tradition.
Right. Right. Right.
And people are like, well, how, and you're like, I don't see it that way.
Right. 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 Right.
Y'all see it that way.
Right.
He did not see it the way that a typical Muslim from Mecca would see it.
It's funny you said that too, because like I got a book that talks about early Arab accounts of West African life, and they're talking about, oh, those dudes they're not real Muslims because like
That's how they
they,
feel.
yeah, because they
How they
do
feel.
all of this other stuff too. You know what I mean?
How they feel.
Yeah.
They feel like they are not real Muslims because they have some other stuff going on.
Right, right. A lot of other stuff, but
How they feel.
yeah, but
You know, and that's their. I mean, unfortunately,
mhm,
Saudi Arabia is the center for Islam,
mhm,
so what they say kind of goes for the religion of Islam.
mhm,
But in West Africa, there are so many examples of like these splinter Islamic groups.
mhm, mhm.
Like the Bifal,
Yep,
and
Senegal. Yep,
there's so many
Moritz.
other groups that you be
Mhm,
like, yeah, they'll tell you they Muslims, but
mhm.
when you look at them, you be like,
Right.
no Islam I know. That's a different Islam. They got some other stuff going in there. They got some Sufism. They
Yeah.
got some different stuff in there. Allah may be in there somewhere, but
Mm.
it'd be some other deities in there, and you be like, oh man, traditional, Sunni or Shia Muslims will have a fit.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely,
But
absolutely.
that's just how African people roll. They, of course you have your hardcore
Yeah.
people, but as a society, from my experience of traveling to the continent,
It's just a
it
part of
ain't.
who we are, huh?
They don't take it that serious. They just
Right, right,
don't.
right, right, right.
It's to the point where if you got a problem, you're a hardcore Christian. You're in service every Sunday, and then you come up with a problem. They go into the Babalawo. They going
What
to the beer. They
you know
going.
what that's so funny
They
because
going.
we did that here
Going to the
too.
Haugon. They
We did that
going
here
to the
too with who
Una.
we did
Going to
that.
the Mambo. They going.
Right, right.
I have a problem.
and we did that.
And I guess the answers is not in the holy
Yeah.
Bible.
You know what's funny? Because we did that too here, like in the black church, and would go see the hoodoo
Going
man
to the
after church.
voodoo man.
Yeah, yeah,
I really want,
yeah.
I really want Jessica to love me. Voodoo man, what you got for that?
Right, 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 right. You know, that yeah, that just goes to show, man. Like I just love to hear and see those instances of, things that we brought with us. It's part of who we are, man. It's just a part of who we are. One thing that is growing, um, and as somebody who has done things the right way, the traditional way, whenever we look at being black people, being African people, historically, you know, we have had like rites of passages, or steps that have to be taken in order to be a part of something. Um, and they were very important part of our traditions, even like secret societies that we had. Um, there were steps that had to be taken. Now we are seeing a lot of people in the diaspora who are definitely wanting to reconnect back with different African traditions, but they're going about it in a way where they are pretty much self-initiated. If you can talk, can you talk about this phenomenon, like, and what's wrong with it, and what they are losing whenever they go about it this way?
Self-initiating into an African tradition is like spiritual suicide.
Mm, mm,
What I mean by that is our traditions are to be experienced. No matter what book you pick up or books,
mm-hmm.
you're not gonna get everything that is supposed to be in this experience. You're
Right,
just not.
right.
Particularly people, West Africans just leave stuff out on purpose.
Mm,
They will. They like
right.
if this is a book on how to do this ritual, they'll just leave something out
Mm, right,
on
right,
purpose.
right.
Like and you'll never know where it's supposed to be, or it won't give you a hint or nothing.
Hmm.
It's just what they do. You are playing with forces and energies that you cannot control. You do not know how to appease. You do not know how to communicate with. This is very, very dangerous.
Mm.
This is dangerous. I have instances where there are people that are no longer here because
Yeah.
they wanted to play.
Did some white girls do that like a few years ago? There was an article that was going around where they was like,
I think I remember something like that.
yeah.
I think I remember something like that. But I do. There was a brother who wanted to be initiated to a certain deity and kept going, coming for consultation, kept saying no, 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 no. But he found somebody to help him do this anyway.
Mm,
He's no longer here.
mm.
Um, Unfortunately, we cannot allow our egos and our desires for fame and popularity fuel our actions for participating in these type of traditions. Self-initiating is just a wild concept to me. So you mean to tell me something you've never done, something you've never seen, something you've never been to, you read a book, you like, I can do that. You can't DIY yourself. This is not Home Depot. You can't just pull up, grab some wood. You're not building a shed.
Right.
Like that is wild to me. And then these people have the unmitigated gall to come around people who have gone through the initiations the traditional way in
Mm.
the correct manner and stand with them like we the same. Like,
Right.
what is going on here?
Right.
You can't buy your degree online and
Mm.
stand next to the guy that went to Harvard. Like,
Facts, facts,
what?
facts.
Like, no. And overnight things pop up in their bio. Freak healer. Uh, you're like, man,
Yeah.
this dude, this dude was just Googling this last week.
Right, 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 right.
Now you the summa cum laude at the top of the mountain. Like, stop. Like, our people have been defrauded so much
Yeah,
throughout
man.
history. They don't deserve whatever scheme you cooking up.
Facts, facts.
Now I understand some of these things can be expensive in African spiritual traditions, but you saved up for them Jordans,
Right, 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 right,
saved up for that Gucci belt,
right,
you
right.
saved up for that car, you saved up for them diamonds in your teeth.
Mm-hmm.
Save up for African spiritual tradition. In the meantime, you can be learning the tradition and the language and the culture. And before we go to initiation, you should be doing that anyway. How do you know you want to be in this for real?
Right, 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 right.
How do you know how far you want to go or if you want to go at all? You should be learning, attending events, asking questions, going through a vetting process to determine whether this is for you.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you start putting that P word, that priest,
Yeah, a lot of people doing that.
it's come with work.
Right, right, right.
It's come with work.
Mm.
I myself is what they call a Ologun, which is a basic priest of Ogun. It come with work. When people call you with problems,
right, right, right,
people
right.
call you with this is happening, and you got to work. Do you want to work for other people?
Right.
That's the basics you should ask yourself before you enter a priesthood. Do you want to work on behalf of other people? You might just want to do stuff for yourself and your family.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be initiated to do that.
Right.
You can receive items without initiating to them.
Mm.
If you don't know that, you just jump into initiation. You rob yourself of knowledge, experience, and even just falling in love with the practice.
Right.
Like, you can't skip steps. You start skipping steps, and I don't know what's going to happen, but I know it's not going to be to your benefit.
Right. Right.
And you're going to get to a point where you like, man, I got to start all over.
Mm-hmm. And what's weird is, like, you see a lot of these people who will let you know that they are self-initiated, and then they speak as if they're authorities. Yeah. And I'm
so
like,
much authority. I don't know
golly.
what you're talking about.
And I love that idea that you mentioned. And a lot of these practices, if there's a book written about it, it's stuff purposefully left out.
Yes.
I love that idea.
Purposely left out. It's just like scientists write books for the scientific community.
Mm-hmm.
So you looking through the book and you see all these terms and you like, man, what's that mean? Man, what's that mean? Man, what's that mean? They writing it for the people that already know what it means.
Right.
They're not writing it for you.
right.
You the one got to go. Singular peptide nuclei. What is that? You the one got to do that. They weren't writing it for you.
Fact.
They were writing it for the people that are already in the field conducting the work. Same thing with African people do with this. I don't care what kind. If you get a book that's talking about performing functions, there's a lot in that book they left out. I'm gonna tell you that right off top. Because you're supposed to know.
Yeah.
It's supposed to just expose you to some new stuff that you can add to what you already doing.
Right.
Know how to do.
Right.
That's one of the tenets of Ifa. It talks about what does that do? I think it's Ikao Fun. It talks about do not attempt to perform things that you don't have a basic understanding. I tell you, don't do this.
Right.
It's not going to end up well.
Right. Right.
And you wouldn't burst into a hospital and say, I got the heart surgery today. Wouldn't do that. You know, I just don't
Yeah.
understand why spirituality is different.
Mm.
And what people don't understand is when you with the basics of initiation,
Hmm.
if this is the deity
Hmm.
and you want to initiate to this deity, you are marrying this deity. Y'all are going to a marriage.
Right.
And guess what? You, no matter what your gender is, you are the wife.
Mm.
That's why in Yoruba we call people Iyawo for a year or more. Iyawo means wife.
Wow. Wow.
You are the wife. You got to put in all the work.
Mm.
You got to put in. You are marrying this deity. You are cultivating a relationship with this deity. When you show up for worship every worship day, it's like y'all going out on dates.
Mm.
Y'all spending quality time together. This is what you want to do. You are binded to this deity for as long as you are on this earth. When you die, they're going to do rituals from this deity's corpus
Hmm.
for you.
Yeah.
This deity will go to your family. It's in your family now.
Right. Right.
This is a cultural bonding experience. So if you don't want to do all of that, and you just want to, pick up some tarot cards and flip them, you want to just do that, just do that.
Right. 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 Right.
Because this over here is serious. This is a life-changing event. You know how you can't change your insurance until you have a life-changing event. This is one of them events.
Mm.
You should
Right.
be able to call in and go, got initiated to a bachelor. You should be able to do that, because this is serious. This is marriage to a deity, to where you're going to be interacting with this deity for all of your life.
Yeah, your whole life will be revolved around this.
Yep.
Um,
And
and
your children
right,
and your
right,
wife
right,
and
right.
and so on and so forth. So if it's not that serious to you and you just trying to make some money, please pick something else of the new age
Yeah,
that don't
yeah.
involve, you trying to represent something like that. Because trust me, people that have been through initiation, we can see y'all a mile away. You're not fooling us. I don't care how many beads you got on. I don't care what you got. You're not fooling us. Within 2 minutes, we go,
It's a self-initiate.
we know
Something's
something
up.
is
Something's
off.
up. Right,
We
right,
start
right.
asking questions. Where'd you say you got
Yeah,
initiated at?
yeah, yeah,
What?
yeah.
Who's your Luo? Who? What you say? Uh-huh. Nah, it ain't adding up. As the sisters say, the math ain't mathing.
Mathing, right, right.
Something, something is amiss.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
can tell.
And that's yeah, and I just feel like anytime you attempting to take a shortcut, you are definitely robbing yourself of the experience. Some culture, I mean, you can learn about culture by reading books, but culture is to be experienced with people that are of that same culture. And there are certain nuances that you're just never going to pick up from a book or a journal
Never,
article that you just have to be around.
never.
And,
Even if you get a glimpse into what things, sometimes you can't even see what things look like.
mm, mhm.
So how are you even creating these things? Because
Right,
they won't even show you the picture.
right, right, right.
There's a particular deity. It took me 5 years to know what this deity even looked like because it was
Wow,
so secret.
wow, wow, wow.
And they wasn't about to. I finally found this book that showed the picture. It's the only book I've ever seen like that.
Mm,
And even with me finally seeing what this deity looks like, I just have another piece of this gigantic puzzle. I still don't know a lot about this deity,
right, right,
but that was just one thing.
right.
So when you get initiated, you receive things.
Hmm.
No matter if it's a Khan, no matter if it's Igbo, no matter if it's Yoruba, no matter if it's Fatarug in Senegambia, no matter if it's Sangoma, no matter if it's Palo, or no matter what it is,
Hmm.
You're going to receive something to take home and be in your house.
Right.
How are you going to recreate that thing?
Mm. Right.
So, what
Right.
is in your house that you think is the equivalent to what these people have received that went through the rites and initiations? Some BS, something that you went and got at Party City, and you got something sparkly. I'm gonna tell you something. You see something too sparkly, and people say it's of
Yeah.
African tradition.
Yeah, nah. What is this bedazzled? What is this?
Africans, yeah, yeah, African tradition stuff be pretty.
Yeah,
It
yeah,
look
yeah.
a certain way,
Right, 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 right,
like
right.
that sparkly stuff. I'm suspicious.
Yeah.
Your herbal bath got glitter in it. I'm not getting it.
Right, 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 right. You know, that's funny, man. And that's why, like, again, guys, it's important to whatever you choose to do it the right way. Um, this book, African Spirituality for Children of the African Diaspora, I'm gonna hold it up again. It is an important part of your library. Make sure you guys hit the link and get this book. Support our brothers who are doing this great work. It's imperative that we do. So make sure you hit the link and support Brother Benjamin, my brother Blak Pantha. It's always a pleasure to have you on and have these conversations with you. It's important, obviously, that we continue to reconnect back with who we are and understand what they attempted to take from us. And I think this book absolutely encapsulates that. And so, again, thank you for the work that you're putting in, and thank you for coming on the show, brother.
No problem, man. Anytime, man. Y'all subscribe to Wise the Dome, man.
Absolutely. Make sure y'all subscribe, hit the like button. Also check out the single. It's the link is in the description. Again, man, thank you again. And until the next time, my brother. Peace.
Odabo.